Okay, let's take a look at some dimensions now. So dimensions are an annotation, which means that they are a 2D element, which means they are view specific. All right. So even if I have multiple floor plans, if I place an annotation, whether it's a dimension, a detail line, if I place a annotation on a view, it's view specific. It's only in that view. You won't see it in 3D views or in any other view. Also, if you move it in a view, its location is specific to that view. So um, let's go ahead and place some here. So for that, we're going to go to our annotate tab and we're going to go, here's our dimension commands over here. I'm going to go with the align dimension. This one I think gives you the most flexibility. Some people use the linear, but the align can do what the linear can and gives you more flexibility. So I prefer the align dimension. So I'm going to click on that to start, and we're going to start off very simple here. First off, have some selections here. Right now it is set to default to select to wall faces, which I prefer. And then it's set to individual references. And we'll take a look at the entire walls options too, but let's start with individual references here. So this is going to allow me to dimension to whatever elements that I want. So let's say I want to make sure that this bed is specifically like a foot away from this wall. All right, so I can go to the inside face of the wall and then click on the bed here. You can see that is substantially far away. It's 3 feet. So I can then move that bed over, and there's a couple different ways I can do it. I can select the bed. I could use my move command, right? And then I know that I want it to go, 2 feet and 0 inches, 0 1/16 inch. All right, and do the math. And that's kind of the hard way, right? So I'm going to undo that. Another way, this is much faster. If I click on the bed, you'll see that the dimension text goes blue there. I can actually just click into that and type in the dimension that I want. And also when you're typing in these dimensions across the board, if you do a space between the feet and inches, you don't have to put in all the unit classifications like you know, these guys. So it's a lot faster. So just remember that space is what Revit is thinking of from feet to inches. So I'm going to go ahead and enter, and you'll see that by adjusting that dimension string, because it is hosted onto the bed, by clicking on the bed, I can then click into that dimension string and adjust that dimension. All right, so once it's hosted to it, that dimension is essentially controlling that object. All right, so I can also do this if I have, let's go back to my annotate tab and align. Say I want to set distance between these chairs. I will put a dimension on there and I can click it and then say, okay, I want them to be 3 feet on center, and I can lay that out. I can also set a dimension. I'm going to go ahead and delete that one. I can use the dimension tool to help me space things out. I'm going to go to the inside face of the wall again, zoom in, make sure I click on the right thing there. And if I click on that, so I'm going to inside face of wall, center line of chair, center line of chair, and inside face of wall again. And then if I click equals here, it's going to equally space those dimensions out. All right. So again, by placing that, and I can do it too once it's already that dimension string. This is called a dimension string, so we have multiple dimensions across it. Once it's placed, I can use that equals to dimension it. The same thing would work on these windows here. I'm going to go to outside face, center line, center line, center line. So each one of those is a click. And then I just want to make sure I'm not on anything else when I click to finish. If you're on another object, it will just add it to the dimension string. So you want to make sure you click on nothing. And then I can hit equals. And it's going to equally space out those windows for me. All right, if you're going to use this for openings, this would be a little bit more architectural, but you could use it for, you might be using it for a project as well. If I click entire wall and I click on the wall, it's going to give me the outside dimension here. I have some options in here. I can include openings. I can have it go to the center of the openings or the widths. So I'm going to go with the centers. You could also do intersecting walls and grids. We don't have any grids on here, but if I have those options selected, I'm going to do openings to the center. So openings are my doors and windows. So if I click on this wall, it's going to do dimension string all the way across. All right, you can also do intersecting walls. I don't have any intersecting walls in here. Let's add a couple. All right, let's try that again. Entire walls, options. I'm going to make sure that's set to, let's include intersecting walls and openings. click on that wall, and it's automatically going to generate um, those items. Typically, you wouldn't dimension like this on either side of the wall just because you don't want to over constrain it. The wall width would come about from a wall type. But if I do need to edit any of these are called witness lines. If I need to edit any of those, I can do that by selecting the string here as it was selected, and up here, edit witness lines. You can see though, it's going to highlight in blue for where those witness lines are hosted, and you can actually deselect them. You'll see that dimension string editing below. And even if if you didn't want this wall for some reason, you can remove that. You can bring it back. Just remember to click somewhere else to finish it. That you can edit those dimension strings. You can also edit them by pulling from that middle dot and pulling it over. All right, you can adjust these by dragging them down. If you want to add text to this, you can do that. If I click on it once, you can replace it with text, but it can't be just a number value. It has to have actual text. Or I can add some information for it. Maybe it's a VIF for verifying field. Maybe it's I might have a max, if it's accessible or something like that. So you can add text notes into these. You can also control the appearance a bit more. If I go into my edit type, you can see that's calling out the size of the font and the type. So the things that there's a lot of things you can do on kind of it's more drafting, but really we're just going to focus on the text. You can change the width factor, which is kind of like the kern of the text, so the spacing between it, but you can change the size. We can change our font here, and we can change the color as well. I often make one that's red just for myself so that when so I have one just for editing. Oh, well, see, that's a what not to do. You'll notice that I didn't duplicate it before I made those changes. So it changed all of the 330 seconds one. I don't know how to pronounce that font. But anyway, I'm going to undo that and show you what I should have done, which was right away, I should have duplicated that. And you can give it, with a name that you want. If you know what the font size and name are going to be, you can name it by that. You can do, this is really for your reference. And then later on down the line, like office standards, but for the class, you can name it whatever you would like. So let me just make some changes here to this one again. So you can see the difference of duplicating it and not messing up everything else. There we go. So now this type exists, this new working. So if I wanted to use it on another one or switch it to a new type, I can. But I also have my typical dimension string here as well. You can also lock dimensions. It's a very useful tool, but I would just say use this very sparingly because I think it's easy to create too many constraints and then over constrain your model. But if we were to, I'll go ahead and delete these guys. If I were to create a dimension, let's go from the inside face of all, oops, see, still set to entire walls. So when I click on that, it's going to go to entire walls. I'm going to change that back up to individual references. But let's say I have something, maybe you have like a 3-foot clear hallway, or pass through that can't be below less than that. I'm going to set that dimension string. I'm going to click on the wall and I'm going to use that dimension to control the location of the wall. Remember with this one too, it's really easy to think that you need to click on the dimension to be able to get in here. But remember, you got to click on the item the dimension is hosted to, then you can click in the dimension to change the value. But if you do have a dimension that is very set and cannot change, you can lock it. And what that is going to do, move that desk out of the way, is that if this wall moves, it's going to keep that. If either of them moves, it's going to keep that constraint, okay, and keep it locked together. So again, very handy, very useful. Just do use in the right application, and I recommend not overusing it throughout the project. We do also have radial and diameter dimensions here. Just going to do a little wall circular so we can see that. All right, so we're calling out the radius there or the diameter. So we have those tools. And then it does also have the angular dimension. So using that shortcut WA for wall, Just draw a little diagonal one here. And then with the angular, I can come in here and get an angular reference as well. All right, and that is the basic overview of dimensions.